We are live. It is another week of Weekly Mojo with your host, Madison Jessica.
That's me.
That's what she says.
And Connor Borrego as my guest host.
I like to pretend I'm about some business, and I'm pretty serious about it, so I got a PhD, as they say. Look at that infinity screen.
Ready to go, man.
Yeah, I feel like this
Me
wasn't
too.
the one. This is
There
the
we go.
one. That was the one.
Nice.
We are back officially. It's live. So you have a new structure for the show tonight. You're kind of excited about it. So do you want to share that?
Well, I guess going forward, we're just looking to be a little bit more succinct on what we're taking out and taking on. So we've got recommendations corner. Persons of interest will be our individual that I've painted this week and our deep dive of the day. So without further ado, I guess we might as well link everything in together and head to ChatGPT.
Sure. I mean, do you want to introduce what you want to talk about first, since it's recommendation corner?
Right. So I guess today's topic of conversation was brought to us by Lessons in Chemistry. I am not finished with the book, so I can't tell you how it ends, but it was valuable enough for me to bring the first 80
Between
pages or
10
so.
and 15% done.
86. That's 20. Anyway,
Yeah.
we'll let them decide.
Exaggeration.
My dear over here, Mileva Marovic, also known as Mileva Einstein, was mentioned in my book, so it sounded like a opportune topic to just tie the two together.
It's kind of funny because she's number 2 in your Bad Bitches of History series,
Yeah.
and this is our second episode. So, what are the coincidences that you would be reading about her in the week in between episodes?
That's kind of what I get back to is it takes me a minute to read things. So I wrapped up my other book 4 weeks ago, and I finally had time to get into something else. And I've got a nice healthy stacks of books that I had not read yet, and this one jumping out to me as wild, and then also the fact that it was in the first 20 pages that she was mentioned, and then in addition to the fact that we've decided to make this a weekly
it's in the name, Weekly Mojo.
Yeah, totally. A weekly show up of some of the baddest bitches of history that have been overwritten. And a lot of that is because of the last names being switched, because for some reason it's the first 20 years of our existence didn't really matter, and it was like a placeholder until we finally did the deed.
I think we're going to save most of that topic for the deep dive later, but maybe you can give us a little bit of insight on the book, why you picked it out, what you like about it so far.
Well, that's basically what it's rationalizing through. Is it's a woman from in the 60s. Her name is Elizabeth Zott. She's the bad bitches that paved the way for us to be here today. She was able to get into a research institute with a master's and is continuing to evolve the studies of DNA research and something a lot more. She's got a touch of the tism and following her bad bitchness, and she finds somebody else that's also got a major touch of the tism that she ends up working with. They have a weird interaction starting off the bat, just tensions up and around, but they end up getting together as every love story duo does. And so she's dealing with the fact that he asked her to marry him, and he just assumed that she would take his last name, but he was fine with it not happening at all. She's just like, I'm not here to get married because I'm not having my name washed out. And so we end up seeing Calvin Evans and Elizabeth Zott that's the contention that I'm at right now, which is why we're talking about last names and how we feel about I don't know, wiping away history in some ways, shapes, and forms, and how did we even get here in the first place?
So is that everything the book's about, or is the rest of the book about just her career, her life, and
I'll let you
at.
know. I mean, I'll give you an update when I have an update. This is basically, it starts out with her and her 5-year-old daughter and how she ended up on her own cooking show called What's
really
for Dinner.
Cool, interesting facts
Totally,
worth sharing.
totally. And then like all of a sudden she jumps back to how she got into that because she's been a research scientist for all of her career. And so that jump from 1 to 2 is kind of what I loved most about her, especially doing this in the 60s. There is apparently a TV series that has what was her name? Is it Emily Blunt?
I mean that
Brie Larson. It's Brie Larson. That just came out as of 2023. I don't think Brie is like the cheese, but close enough. It's a TV series on Hulu. It's featuring, or it's about Elizabeth Zott and her life. I imagine this is a real woman and a bad bitch of her time.
It's the name of the book.
So there you go. Lessons in Chemistry is the TV series. If you don't want to read the book and wait for me to give you the like total synopsis, I would just recommend doing that. But it's
also not on Hulu for what it's worth.
Oh, is it Apple TV? Oh,
yeah,
yeah, that's right.
I think we looked that up, and yeah. Anyways, this is not an ad for GoDaddy either. Disregard that. I hate them. We're moving channels as soon as we can. So
whoever wants to sponsor can step up to the plate. We're ready.
Sure, that too. Hosting providers or sponsors, though. We did just find a new hosting partnership. So anyways.
But so I'm chapter 10. If anybody else wants to continue to read that with me, that would be great.
Alrighty. So segment number 2. Let's meet Mileva.
Yeah. Getting into how women's names are often just rewritten with history. Mileva, I met through. Don't remember initially, but I love that she continues to be reintroduced to me because, of course, there is behind every great leader is a much better woman. Is that something like that? Remind me of what the saying is. I think there's a lot of women that have been in existence in power in some way, shapes, and forms, but never seeing that the recognition that they deserve. I think is the best way of me thinking of that. But do you mind ChatGPT telling us a little bit more about Mileva Maravich, who married and is known as Albert Einstein's first wife, but should be known for all of the work that he put into his white papers as they were young and in college and beyond in his early career.
Nope, that's not who that is. My spelling is so bad, dude.
Here, I've got it on the back.
What's that? There we go.
See, wow. This shit is so buried that you can't even get to it. No.
This is everyone. Look at how bad these two are side by side. They are not like it was. I was not doing myself any favors here.
Sure. Anyway, we got here eventually. I am excited to see what ChatGPT comes up with. Let's leave it open ended and just see what happens with Mileva Maravich. I don't want to know anything about Einstein. I just want to, I want to just see what happens.
You gotta add these little details to get something not generic, you know? I'm like, you gotta give it a little flavor.
Once upon a time. What a start.
Right, well, I said lore. Lore is probably the word that really fucked us there. Oops. Pardon my language.
This isn't PC, let's be real.
I know. Well, with the fairy tale that started getting written, I think it's probably hard to tell, so that's why I was calling that out. All right.
Looks like we've got quite a little synopsis here.
Once upon a time, in the enchanted land of Serbia, a brilliant star was born. On December 19th, 1875, this star, known as Mileva Merrick, would embark on the extraordinary journey filled with scientific marvels, love, and a sprinkle of mystery. From a young age, Mileva was no ordinary girl. She devoured books like they were chocolate, and her insatiable curiosity led her to master mathematics and physics, fields typically dominated by men. Picture a young Mileva, with her trusty quill and ink, solving equations faster than the village baker could knead dough. Her quest for knowledge took her to Zurich, Switzerland. Wow. Where she enrolled in the Polytechnic Institute. There, amidst the ivy-covered walls and echoing halls, she met a wild-haired genius named Albert Einstein. Now, Albert wasn't just an ordinary bloke. He had a sparkle in his eye that matched Mileva's own intellectual fire. The two became inseparable, bonding over late-night debates about the mysteries of the universe and sharing a love that was as electric as their scientific discussions. They were the original power couple of physics. Imagine them sneaking into libraries, whispering sweet nothings about relativity and quantum theory. In 1903, they tied the knot, and soon the world witnessed a cosmic collaboration. There are whispers in the scientific lore that Mileva played a crucial role in Albert's groundbreaking work, especially the famous theory of relativity. Some say she was the secret ingredient in E equals MC squared. The hidden genius behind the scenes. While this remains a topic of debate, one cannot deny the intellectual synergy they shared. But alas, as in any epic tale, not all was smooth sailing.
Insecure white man failing
Their
forward.
love story, like a comet, burned bright but was fleeting. They eventually parted ways, with Albert rocketing to fame, while Mileva, entered the unsung hero, continued her work in relative obscurity. She faced personal struggles, including caring for their sons, one of whom had serious health issues and financial difficulties. I asked for an upbeat story, so this is the positive version of all of this, by the way.
This poor fucking bitch deserves this rewriting. I mean, man, energetically speaking.
Right. Despite these challenges, Mileva's legacy as a pioneer for women in science shined brightly. She broke barriers in an area when women were expected to be more concerned with knitting than Newtonian physics. Her perseverance and intellectual prowess paved the way for future generations of female scientists. In the end, Mileva Merrick's life was a tapestry of triumphs and trials, woven with threads of brilliance and resilience. She remains a symbol of unrecognized genius and the eternal quest for knowledge. So next time you marvel at the wonders of the universe, give a nod to Mileva, the star that quietly illuminated the path for so many.
So fucking many. Oh my god, I have chills.
Good job, ChatGPT. Great job.
You know, as heartbreaking as the continuation of women's work being like overwhelmingly taken for granted by men, I just well done in how well she continued going forward.
You didn't even have to ask ChatGPT to like lead it at all in terms of telling her story accurately. You know, it didn't center around Einstein at all.
Well, except for the fact that he really did just steal all of her
work.
Yeah, the only thing he's really known for is something that she basically came up with. I'm like, so what was he known for after that? Just literally spouting off?
No, he has
from that point?
No. He has one thing, and it's a marketing thing, if you ask me. He
expanded beyond
his description of quantum physics will last forever. It's spooky action at a distance. It's a marketing contribution.
I understand, but I can guarantee you it was probably hers.
Yeah, I mean, maybe like given the trend, sure. But like in terms of the low stakes things here.
What was his later work after E equals MC squared? Like, what did he do profoundly after that?
I think this has something to do with string theory, but like
GPT. I want to know, like, yeah.
Okay.
Was he just famous for like co-opting her work and then just for living off of that?
Einstein famous for
after E equals MC squared.
E equals MC Where is it? Squared.
No,
It's just
Einstein.
I was making sure I got the spelling right. I don't care about the capitalization. Nope, it's thinking.
It's really thinking.
You know, sometimes there's this whole lead-in where the text you put in front of it changes how it sees stuff. So, you know, that's why it thinks that way.
Isn't theory of relativity with her as well?
Well, I thought E equals mc squared was the theory of relativity.
1907 to 1915. When did they get divorced? That's just going to be easier. 1907 to 1915 is when Albert Einstein contributed to the scientific discovery.
Right.
They got married in 1903.
Classic Maddie.
That's fucking.
Oh, here we go. Here's what he did after
refrigerator.
that.
He fucking did the refrigerator. Not saying that's not a great accomplishment.
Environment.
Good job.
They didn't invent the refrigerator. It was an environmentally friendly refrigerator. It is not a household thing.
Folks, I think we have our answers here. Who was the true scientific genius? And I am so happy to be validated in real time.
Well,
they did this during their early work. Quantum theory contributions was during their early work. 1903 was when they got married. 35 would be reasonable to say that something that he did.
Oh, spooky action at a distance. That's 1935's comment, which then goes into unified field theory, which this is very highly contested and not really necessarily proven.
To which I get back to, I bet that was early shit that they talked about, and this is now he has street cred, and this is his only movement towards publishing anything, and it's not very easily publishable when it's a lot of it feels like a lot more scientific research and quantum expansion in order to make all of those networks connect.
Yeah, so...
Not saying he was wrong, but I'm also I don't think it was just him who said that. I think it was him and Mileva. Getting back to the only fucking reason.
Well, yeah, I mean, but they were apart for another 15, 20 years after,
Right, I get back to he was looking for money. At this point, he was looking for relevancy at that point.
Yeah, he was still further down the, same path that they were basically with that equation.
Because,
it's good
shit.
Yeah, well, anyways, I don't think unified field theory exists necessarily. You know, I'm more of
I don't know enough about it, but give me your 2 cents.
Well, it says it would unite general relativity and electromagnetism, but really it's all about the fact that things that work on a large scale break down at a small scale in terms of what we would consider laws of the universe.
Because that's random chance is basically what's being introduced on the micro scale that's accounted for at a macro scale.
Potentially, that might be one way to describe what's going on, because yes, I think that there is a size granularity, magnitude of scale element that does matter, and the fact of the matter is the only rule of the system is chaos, which is that
for macro it becomes organized chaos.
Sure. Because it's a structure over time, because it needs to functionally. But in order for infinity to persist, you need constant change. So that's why that's the only constant.
Sure. Interesting. Wild. What a wild full circle on a lot of things for me.
Yeah, and then spooky action at a distance just describes the fact that these, things are on different levels.
I was I wish I had those little the wire things to ask if Mileva was responsible for spooky action at a distance.
Yeah. Well,
my hand said yes.
Yeah, well, your hands want to say yes also. So let me put Mileva back on the pedestal for the rest of the episode. Sorry if I almost nicked you there.
All good.
So moving on to the final segment here. We're being actually fairly efficient today. We could even make our 23-minute target. Probably won't, since I think this will be our longest segment.
Like another 10,
but
I feel good.
Yeah, no, I feel great. This feels perfect. This makes sense. Anyways,
working out the kinks.
Yeah, well,
tying the two together, I guess Connor Borrego, how do you feel about us being married together and me having a different last name?
I just think you're a total hypocrite because you said that you would evaluate it based off of who had the cooler last name.
I say that is often, like, if you're going to choose one, that is exactly what you should do. And I do acknowledge that I am not
to say that Spence is not a cool last name.
Rules.
I am saying Spence is a cool last name.
Borrego is pretty cool.
Yeah, but that's also maybe just because, like, we're white and stuff. And
I mean, like, I always identified with being a black sheep, so I think on another level that is its own thing.
Yeah, so for our listeners out there who don't speak Spanish, borrego is you do it when you roll the R. Yeah, it means lamb. So, and I think it's so funny that we both feel like black sheep sometimes.
Oftentimes.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so I guess getting back to that, listen, I understand that I am a walking hypocrite in a lot of ways, shapes, and forms. So I'm just acknowledging all of the context to this.
I only say that to cut it for myself and, make it a little lighthearted to intro the topic for you.
That's fair.
You're going to have the rest of the platform to say your end of it, which I think I agree with clearly.
Which is basically, I never saw myself getting married. And so having any sort of individuality based on like what I've done for myself continuing forward just has never really sat well with me. And I think that's probably why I never felt like I was going to get married, mostly because most people aren't willing to put up with the idea of individuality within codependency.
So specifically, you're talking about the fact that before we were even married, you yourself have been published in a white paper or two in scientific journals under your own name, right? And, that's kind of part of what triggered that thought for you in this book, where you're talking with a professional career scientist who also wants, credit for the work that she's doing, and then referencing a different career scientist from a whole nother generation who also, historically got screwed in that area. So,
yeah,
anyways.
All of those things, yeah, that's a huge part of it, was being able to maintain myself and to be able to maintain my streak of publications now that I can say that I'm published. To be fair, I was going to probably be in this position no matter what, but having a publication is a really nice, like, push towards maintaining my independence in addition to our partnership. Because I think it's all just BS at the end of the day.
Right, and that's also your solution for what now?
Well, our last name is... I'm not going to change my last name because the government thinks that they deserve more money for something. And, in all reality, like, your sister's name is Madison. So, like, everything considered...
She will get married one day, and she's a little more traditional is all I'm saying.
And I get back to, it's all just BS at the end of the day. So I write my name as it exists, and then I'll throw a B in there as I remember to. But the real, like, reality of it is it's some sort of hybrid between Borrego and Spence's union. The BSV, the BSU, the, I don't know, every fucking thing in between. Our poor kids is all I get back to. If that ever comes down to it, the last name is BS because it's just too much effort.
Yeah, I'm gonna look forward to those teachers' conferences, to be honest. And do you think they just will skip over our child's last name in those situations because they're just like, why does it say BS?
We're just gonna say that they have an honorary Bachelor of Science at that point, because they probably will if they're our kids.
Right, as long as that science is the science of bullshit, because that's all I can teach them.
That's what we're here for. That's what we're best at. But yeah, It was cool to be a part of and continue to be a part of a community and a partnership that allows us to both find our individualities in our like partnership together, which I think is cool. Oh yeah, we wanted to look up the history of why the fuck we have name changes in the first place, because it doesn't make sense to me. Why, when I'm the one that's carrying something for the 9 months and housing it and responsible for like pushing it into this world, I not only get to basically have to fight for a last name, sometimes even first names. Kind of crazy to think about. Then also the all of the responsibilities on the back end of that if the partner doesn't pick up their half of the weight. It's a lot.
Yeah.
No wonder nobody really wants to go into that. It's overwhelming, to say the least.
I'd say it's very rare that women abandon their children also either.
Right, which
so
is why I'm like,
that's why
I
you
have
say
to
this
get
is the
fucking
default.
stuck with it. And I'm like, not saying that you'd be stuck with it. It's like,
I
it's a
think there
beautiful
are a
opportunity.
lot more dads out there, especially these days, who care a lot more and would rather be involved. I feel like that's a trend, to be honest.
I don't disagree. I think the ability to recognize that it's not about control in the conversation, though, and a control in the growth of. It's just like, how can you best shape that individual with the like resources and the like skill set that you have?
Sure, but I think that isn't necessarily
requires presence that a lot of people do not participate in.
Sure, and I'm not necessarily sure that either party is better at that these days, though maybe one has a more likelihood to be. Sure, but I think a whole lot of people don't have space to be present, so I think it might be a flat equality based thing where it's like you have more money.
There is the only one that's really like seen as.
You have more money, you have more optionality to be present.
Supposedly, but let's look at like
still a choice once you're there. So like there's a hot spot and it's still like there's like people once they're in that hot spot, it then tends to trend more towards women, like you said. But I'm just like there's a whole factor of things going on.
It's very multifaceted and complex. You're not wrong. Saying who is housing and who is responsible for a lot of these things often correlates to women.
Didn't say that it wasn't.
Yeah, let's get into this history. I'm so curious.
Yeah, so I like to mix it up. So I went to Gemini this time. So this could be highly censored. I really don't know. The history of last names and traditions. Last names, also called surnames or family names, are a relatively recent invention. Everything in society is a recent invention for what it's worth. So here's a breakdown of the history and the traditions.
Also recent as to when, because I feel like Chinese tradition is usually
so this is a European specific tradition
verse, and then so I'm like, that feels like a generationally traditional like a longer than this is giving it credit for, but sure, this is Gemini.
Sure, but like as far as I know, I don't think like Roman people had like surnames, so it kind of makes sense. But anyways, around 10th, 11th century is what it's saying. These came out of in Europe in the Middle Ages, and the original surnames have to do with people's like occupations or locations.
That makes sense. Blacksmith or whatever.
Some cultures use mothers' names for this type of thing. Some. It's just calling it out. It's less common. So it says traditions of changing last name. Traditionally, upon marriage, women took their husband's last name. This reflected
starting when?
Well, I think at least after the 10th, 11th century.
Okay.
So we're talking, the thousands here right now. We've been at this for about 1,000 years in at least European culture. Traditionally, upon marriage, women took their husband's last name. This reflected the patriarchal structure of societies where women, this is specifically European that it's generalized about, where women often joined their husband's family. Children took the father's last name to signify paternal lineage and inheritance. Modern shifts. The practice of women changing their last names is declining since the 70s. You know, I think we're aware of
sick of
that.
being fucking whitewashed out of this world.
Women keep their own surname, hyphenate, or create a new one. Why the tradition persists? Convenience. Sharing a last name simplifies family records.
Convenience
Family
of what?
unity. Family unity. Prefer a unified last name for parents and children.
What dumb fucking traditions for the lack of autonomy I would exist to persist.
We can take it over to ChatGPT, see if we get anything better. That's always good.
I wanna, yeah, because my modern family studies or history of the family studies, Native American women were the matriarch, so it was like more often found, I assume, through their lineage than it was through the men. I have to imagine there are other cultures that have similar practices when they're the ones that are fucking housing it. That does not compute to me.
Okay, so I'm going to speed read this since it's kind of similar. This one talks about ancient origins, which go to Rome, which literally
That's funny.
is like a fact check for me, which is funny. But Cicero or Caesar were last names, basically. Caesar Augustus,
sure.
Caesar whatever. Whatever the actual Caesar Aurelius? I don't remember. No, that's Marcus Aurelius. I don't know anyone's names. Medieval Europe is when it started to spread around the 11th to 16th centuries. Again, patronymic, matronymic, occupational, geographic, descriptive. All exactly what we got from Gemini. The tradition of women taking their last name is mostly patriarchal societies, legal and proprietary property rights, because you know the husband
because
historically
women didn't have any access
till like
to
the 1950s or 60s. Yeah,
1981 is when I was able to get a bank account without a man co-signing. That's fucking absurd. That's millennials. That's Gen X and millennials. No fucking wonder we're the first generation where all the women are like, I'm pretty good doing this by myself. And
yeah.
like,
well, also historically, men as the breadwinners had all the money, so you know, like basically, it was all about inheriting daddy's money. So now maybe they want to inherit mother's money. Maybe this is
well, like we didn't get daddy's money in the first place. I didn't get any fucking land, mostly because boys got it all.
Yeah, you'd inherit.
Yeah, what? Right. Like I get married away. Ooh, good for me.
Yeah, you get like a dowry and stuff. I forget what
Maybe.
it is.
With today's inflation? Like, what, you want to fucking give me some cows?
Hey, I'm not.
I would take fucking cows, honestly, in today's day and age over money.
Well, all I'm saying is
no.
All I'm saying
Where
is,
the fuck are the women?
Well, I'm saying is the women seem to be the breadwinners these days. So as children, it sounds like you'd want to take your mom's last name to receive the inheritance of the money that she'll have to leave. That's all I'm saying by my comment. But you know, just being strategic about it or whatever, because that's what I would be. Anyways, that being said,
just take on the household name. And if you've got a badass household where your mother and your father are both participating in this thing called life,
yeah,
and that's pretty cool.
You take the household name, but like then it's just like, okay,
take whatever the fucking name you want.
You're gonna every time someone gets married, it becomes alphabet soup. Is all I'm saying.
Right, so you can go track it back down to yourself, but I like the choice.
Yeah. And exceptions and variations. It talks about matrimony societies, certain communities in Spain, parts of China, various indigenous cultures. I asked a follow-on question, so we'll hear more about that in a second. In recent decades, again, 1970s forward, we've heard about
Spain
this.
and China. Spain is new. I didn't know that.
Iceland uses patronymic. Cool. I just add son or daughter to someone's name, basically, and that the dad's name, and that's how you get your last name. And the Spanish naming tradition in Spain, many Hispanic cultures, individuals typically have two last names: the first from their father and the second from the number. The dual surname system honors both paternal and maternal.
That's fucking cool. Good for you. Nice to hear it, Spain.
That's from
way to be above
specifically. That's from the Basque Country, which wants to separate itself from the rest of Spain. So take that with a grain of salt.
Old roots. I loved all of Spain. I didn't get, well, yeah, I was in Barcelona. That's Basque Country, I'm pretty sure.
They're the equivalent of the South will rise again, though, for Spain, just so you know. I'm going to clarify that. Like, I don't think they're the true equivalent, but, like, they are full-on hardcore separatists that do not want to be a part of the country of Spain and are on the verge of revolution.
Aren't we all?
Yeah, I mean, there's edging. We can feel it. The tension is building.
Also, can we just acknowledge how much more ChatGPT has given us?
Well, this is a different question that I asked, but
before it called out China and Spain specifically,
yes,
which
did give us
Gemini
more.
did not.
Right.
And I called out China. Thank you for acknowledging that.
You would like to hear this as well, because Norwegian and Swedish traditions from medieval Norway and Sweden have matronymic surnames. Maria's daughter, although less common than their patronymic surnames, they were used in certain contexts. So there was probably some sort of women's community that's where they referred to you in that name, potentially. Who knows?
Sure. Being part Norwegian and Swedish, I feel very related to that.
Yeah, you guys have like a strong independent streak, it feels like.
Yeah.
Lastly, it comes down to African cultures. We've got the Akan people of Ghana, and the children often inherit the surnames from their mothers. They Akan have a maternal lineage where inheritance and succession are determined through the mother's line. Main identity is associated with the mother's family. The Tuareg of North Africa. This people also have matrilineal traditions. Super significant role in social structure, it says, matriarchal. Asian cultures, they're the Minangkabau, I want to say. People of West Indonesia, it says. The people of West Sumatra specifically have the oldest matrilineal society in the world.
That's rad. Would love to come visit.
And the Musu people of China, living in the Yunnan and Sichuan provinces, practice a form of matrilinity. Property and family responsibilities are also passed through the mother's line.
Hell yeah! I guess if you only get one choice, you kind of have to.
The Hopi and Navajo tribes are matrilineal. Jewish naming conventions. It's not their names. You're only Jewish if your mom's Jewish, but like it has nothing to do with your name. But they call that out because that is a matrilineal inheritance. Hyphenated and blended surnames. That's what a lot of modern societies are doing. There's a revival. Some individuals and families are reviving it.
Well, shit, all of the Jolie Pitt kids drop Pitt from their fucking names because, he wasn't a present-ass dad in the first place. Or if he was,
all of the above.
Sound great.
Sure.
Good for you guys. Surrey Cruz also did the same fucking thing. Fuck Tom Cruise.
Yeah, it seems like occasion by occasion basis.
Yeah.
More
power to you.
So there's all these unique examples, and mostly it revolves around these three concepts, whether it's matrimonial or patrimonial. But the tradition is moving more towards gender equality and partnerships because that's kind of where we're at these days. We can kind of see each other as equals, or try to at least. I have to literally run to a meeting in 1 minute.
This has been a great call. Thank you so much for joining Weekly Mojo for week 2.
Yeah, another episode done. Another one behind us. Thanks for joining us on the Playhouse. Like and subscribe for more. Yeah, and you can start to collect these NFTs soon. So stay tuned for more. We'll be back next week, same time.